Hello and welcome to the My RD Journey Podcast. My name is Adam, your co-host and producer. With me, of course, is Felicia Peraza of Peraza Nutrition, perazanutrition.com, my Facebook, Instagram, I almost said it, Twitter. What else do you use? Anything?
Facebook,
LinkedIn.
Instagram.
I guess you're on LinkedIn.
I am, as just like Felicia Peraza.
Cool.
Yeah.
She is here in the flesh. All right, what are we talking about today?
We are going to talk about how to get clients in private practice.
Okay.
And a little bit about marketing too. So
A bit about marketing. Are we going to start with marketing?
Yeah, let's start there.
What is to know about marketing? First of all, what is marketing?
So it's basically...
What even is that?
Just selling
Let's define our terms here.
Just basically selling your services, I should say.
How you present yourself to the world?
Yeah, pretty much. And, basic marketing was not covered in my undergrad or internship. And so kind of going over just the...
Well, it wouldn't be unless you were choosing an entrepreneurship track, right?
No, yeah.
Did you get any of it in your master's?
I actually didn't. Well, a little bit. We did a business plan. So I should probably say that was included in part of the business plan was your marketing strategy. So maybe I lied.
All right. So are we talking about what marketing is? So what is it exactly?
Yeah. So it's basically how you're presenting yourself, your services, how you're going to get your name out there, to say the least. How people are going to know who you are, recognize you and your brand. So what you can actually do.
Your brand. What's that? What's branding? We're way off script already.
We are.
What's branding?
So actually branding, and this is something I didn't actually do until recently, was when you think about a brand, what's like a common brand?
McDonald's.
That was the one I was thinking of too. Like the color scheme, the tagline, the logo, all of that, the font.
Everywhere, everyone in the world, when they see a yellow M,
yeah,
it's McDonald's. With a red background, unequivocally McDonald's.
Yeah, or the Nike swoosh.
Yeah, because they have very specific branding. It's very distinct, and they use that to promote their presence in all of their stuff.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere. They associate it. Anyone who sees even yellow and red in like a food service environment, you would generally subliminally associate that with McDonald's.
Yeah. And that's like with Peraza Nutrition, like my colors and even like the font that I use, that was all kind of developed. And so I use like I don't even know the colors that they are, but they're like greenish and yellow and orange. And so if you look at my website, everything has that same color. And then that is matched on like my Instagram and my Facebook and all of that. So.
And you commissioned that artwork. What was it, like Fiverr or something? You commissioned that. You paid for that.
Yeah, it wasn't through Fiverr. It was actually someone who I connected with at a Chamber of Commerce event, and they connected me with
weird networking too. Amazing.
We're going to talk about today a little bit. So, which was a nice warm connection, which was nice. So,
okay, so that's marketing, and a little bit of a tangent on branding. What are some important things relevant to marketing for you and what you do? And if someone wants to do what you do, what about marketing specifically should they engage with?
So the first, and these are terms that like I never really knew much about when I first started, but people kept referencing them. So one of them is SEO, which is search engine optimization.
What's a search engine?
Like Google, basically. Everyone knows
Google,
that.
Bing,
Yeah.
everyone, just Bing it. Everyone says that, right?
Do they really?
Bing it. Let's Bing it.
I mean, Google it has been like,
I'm
Googling
kidding. I'm kidding. Microsoft has been pushing Bing hardcore. Anyone who's like steeped in internet culture, it's kind of a joke to like use Bing. Who uses Bing, really?
Nobody.
But Facebook and YouTube are, in a sense, search engines of themselves. People search for things on those sites. YouTube is the second biggest search engine, which you don't think of YouTube as a search engine usually.
You wouldn't.
So you do want to, if you're present in video form with your content, like we are right here, right now, you want to optimize your YouTube content for search engine optimization. I kind of cut you off. What is it?
Oh, so it's basically like when you are driving traffic to, let's say, your website, for example. So people are searching for like a dietitian, let's say on Google, and you're ranking higher in that list. So you're on maybe page 1.
You're ranking higher on that list if your website or content is well optimized for a search engine.
Yes.
Okay. Are we going to talk about how to do that, or did you just want to talk about what it was?
I just want to talk about what it was.
Okay. Well, to search engine optimization is pretty complex.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot to do with a few things. I mean, we're going to talk about what backlinking
Yeah.
too, right? Do you want to just talk about what backlinking is?
Basically linking from one page to another, one web page to another. So, for example, I have my blogs linked to my website. I have YouTube videos linked on my blog page. So when people are reading through a blog post, they get to the end and they can click on a link to go to my website. I'm also linked on other people's blogs too. So if they're talking about private practice, they may have linked me by linking my website or linking my blog in their blog post itself.
So one of the things you just talked about was your stuff is linked on some of your other stuff. That's cross promotion. You're cross promoting your own content, and in effect, you're backlinking it as well.
Mm-hmm.
The internet kind of prioritizes websites and pages based on a whole host of things, which is well known as search engine optimization. If you optimize your site really well, it ranks higher in search results for Google, Bing, YouTube, whatever. Backlinking, the strength of the backlinks, the quality of them, and the quantity is what's important in one aspect of that. And what you just talked about, how if you have a web page or if you have content, specifically blog entries or a blog or a YouTube channel page, the more it's linked around the internet in high quality environments, the better for you. What people used to do in the old days of the internet was buy thousands of backlinks, but they were low quality on BS web pages that no one visited. And it used to be the case that Google did not know what a good link was versus a bad link. Google has gotten a lot smarter. Their algorithm for prioritizing search engine results has gotten much better and more efficient over time. That's no longer a thing. You're not competing anymore with people who were more tech savvy than business savvy and could just destroy anyone in terms of search engine results by buying BS backlinks. It's no longer a thing. But the more your stuff gets shared, the better. If a YouTube video or a blog post or your website gets passed around by other people, that's great. Those are high quality backlinks. That looks awesome for search engine optimizations. If we're going to talk about what this stuff is, I want to go on a little bit longer about like how this works. So one of the things that is talked about with search engine optimization is metadata. So if you have, it's better to have text in your web page than like images of text, because text, and we're going to talk about keywords too in a little bit, but anything that's text, like if you can highlight it on your web page, is searchable, and like Google kind of crawls all of the text information on your page, and that is used to inform Google on how to throw websites at people when they search for it. It helps to optimize your stuff even more to have like crawlable text. Also, the title of a web page is important. If you're on YouTube, there are things like tags where you can put in things that are relevant. A lot of blog sites and YouTube have categories where YouTube will optimize things categorically. You know, if you're doing something that's health and wellness, or people and blogs is one of the common categories. Either way, there's a lot of data that Google uses to prioritize search engine results. Well, anytime you title something, that is considered metadata, and it's pretty high priority in terms of how Google or a search engine prioritizes what is how your page or your content is shown to whoever. There's a lot to consider. Search engine optimization is kind of its own expertise all in and of itself. People build entire businesses around optimizing your content for search engines.
Yeah.
I wouldn't criticize anyone if they hired someone to do that for them. There's a lot there. It's worth looking into on its own. All right, what's a landing page?
So this is basically a web page that's designed to generate leads. So it's like a form, and it's usually for a specific reason. So
quite literally, it's the page you land on if you click someone's stuff. It's where people hit first when they come onto your site. It's usually what is linked to first.
Yeah.
It's where you end up first.
Yes.
It's quite literally a landing page. It's a page you land on.
Yes.
That kind of spirals into your other stuff.
Exactly. And I have a landing page through MailChimp in one of my links on my website to sign up for a fitness group. And so I can share just that individual link to the landing page, or it's also on my website so people can find it. But they're landing on it to then sign up for my fitness group. So it's something very specific, but I can just share that page too. So
okay. And do you want to talk about keywords also?
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to talk about what that was. So if you think about what people are searching for, and this kind of comes along with search engine optimization as well, but what people are literally putting in Google. Are they looking for a dietitian, in whatever zip code, or nutritionist? People often use the term nutritionist, or diabetes dietitian, or diabetes nutritionist, or weight loss, those kinds of big search terms. But I know Google, there's probably others too, has like a keyword planner where you can.
There is an analytics system built in that you can use.
Yeah. So we'll link those down below, I guess.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And then there's
it's like google.com/something. It's,
Yeah.
it's literally Google.
And then there was also, there's like a trend too, where you could see which keywords are actually trending. So for a while, I was actually signed up for like email alerts on different keywords, and like it would, send me an email with, here's how much this was searched in the last week, or the term nutritionist was up, 100 and something % in the last couple weeks, especially around like the holidays or after the holidays, I should say. So
that's a really good thing to keep an eye on for stuff relevant to your niche.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about this because, this podcast in particular is going to focus on how to get clients and also how to keep them. But this is stuff that you need to know, because if you want to get clients, people have to be able to discover you.
Yes.
And this is basically a snapshot, brief introduction to basically presence on the web.
Yes.
And people actually being able to find you.
Exactly.
Visibility is really important. And if you're not discoverable, you're going to have an issue existing online, period. This stuff is really important.
Yeah.
Backlinking, search engine optimization, targeting specific keywords. This is not anything to do with dietetics, but seriously, if you're going to be involved in starting a private practice or being in a small business, this is stuff that this day and age you just have to know.
Yeah.
You can't get away with not being well versed in this stuff. There's a lot outside of dietetics you have to learn if you want to be successful in this arena.
Yeah. And
unfortunately.
And that's even, people used to think that if you have a brick and mortar business, you're seeing clients in an office, you don't have to worry about all this stuff, but that's still the case face to face or virtual.
So, yeah, people discover you online still anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a bit about the basics of marketing and kind of search engine optimization. And they are categories in and of themselves that if you're going to engage with a small business yourself, you really should become an expert in. As much as a lay person should. I mean, don't go back to school for marketing, but
And I would suggest checking out your free library near you if you have one, or even like online. We'll link some resources.
Who does that? Who goes to the library?
I actually, what's funny? I did a free appointment with a librarian like 2 years ago, and she actually gave me a ton of resources about like SEO and like all these PowerPoint stuff, and like found all these databases of how you can search terms and had free resources. The appointment was free, but all the resources were free. But yeah, it was really helpful.
with SEO and marketing, there's a lot of like, I don't know how to put this nicely, but misinformation where you have to be careful what you learn and study. And there's a lot of people just trying to sell themselves as experts in something rather than explain this stuff. Proceed with caution, but it's out there.
Yeah.
That's probably I think that's probably high quality information condensed coming from a librarian. They're not going to send you to somebody's business who's just trying to sell you something.
That was what was really nice about it.
Okay, so what do we do for online for marketing? I mean, what do you want to get into here? What's the high priority stuff?
Definitely having a website. So that is something you absolutely want to have. So people are going to be able to get to know you. They're going to get to know your services, be able to commit, like actually figure out who you are before they commit and pay, or even use their insurance.
A website.
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's some basics that you want to put in on your website too. So have an about you section. So like who you are, maybe like your background, your education, the services that you might offer.
Well, how do you recommend someone go about getting a website? I mean, do we want to talk about like the very basics of doing that?
Yeah, like platforms and stuff.
Sure. I mean, like, how did you start your website?
So I used I still actually use GoDaddy.
We're not promoting them. There's no professional affiliation. This is just what she uses.
Yeah, and there's other ones too, like Wix, Squarespace, WordPress.
Those are they're all easy, like drag and drop HTML. web page editors. You don't have to learn how to code. If anyone's familiar, you don't need to learn HTML or CSS to actually do this. It's literally drag and drop. Couldn't be easier. We're in a very fortunate period of time where literally anyone can just create a website themselves.
Yeah.
And you see the popular ones advertised all the time on YouTube and online and other platforms.
Yeah.
They're all worth considering.
They are. And, you're kind of finding one that's going to suit your needs, and like ease of use and customer service, I would say, are like the biggest things to look for when you're shopping around for different platforms to use. But they have a lot of templates too. So it's not like you're, given like a blank page and just, fill it up. There's a lot of like really nice templates for like all different types of services, so that way you have something to build from and you can move stuff around, but it gives you a starting point. So if you're not really sure what to do or how to set everything up.
There are cheap ways to get this started.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have a full-blown website package to start with. At the very least, get a URL, and that's cheap. That's like $20 a year or something.
Yeah.
If that, maybe 10.
I think mine's,
depending on what you do.
Yeah, it's like
if you buy hosting along with the URL, it's cheaper, whatever. You could buy a URL and then have it forward to something free, like a YouTube channel or a blog or something. Even a website from even a Facebook page.
Yeah.
Buy the URL and have it forward to something free. If that's all you can do right now, that's like the bare minimum, I think. Get your URL if you have a business name or you want to use your name or an offshoot of it or something. At least do that.
Yeah.
And then have it forward to something that's free that you're already using. So, okay, what do we want to talk about? Elsewise, if you do start a full-blown website, what do we want on it?
Yeah, and you can, as you were saying, you don't need this whole big shebang with a website just yet. My first website had 3 pages on it.
You don't need a whole big shebang.
Yes.
Peraza Nutrition. TM.
My first website had like three pages, so only 3 tabs, and that was it. So I had like my about section, my services, and like a way to contact me, and like that was literally it. So those would be like the core things to include on there, but make it easy for people to contact you. So if you have 1 or 3 pages, whatever it is, include the contact button on all of those pages. Because if people are looking on your website and they're like, oh, I'm interested in booking, and then they're trying to search all over for how to actually get in contact with you, make sure that information is very easy to find. So your email address or like a contact landing page for them to fill in their information to send you an email, but make it easy for them.
Yeah, if it's difficult to figure out how to actually contact with you, people will give up really easily. It's funny, but think about the way you interact with web pages and stuff. If you're just kind of having a fleeting interest of something, you're not going to dig that deep into figuring out how to get a hold of somebody or contact support on something. It's people's attention span online is very, very short. Make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, what else about... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but that's a good point is, making it easy, but also think about what you like when you go to websites and also what you hate. Like personally, when I go to web pages and there's a bunch of pop-ups and ads all over and it's distracting me from finding the information, I'm over the website. So making sure that it's not only easy for clients to use, but also that you're not bombarding them with all these pop-ups, which...
are you even able to do that with a basic 3-page website?
Some of them you kind of with newsletter opt-ins.
You make it pop up first?
Yeah. So just things to consider. But
that's every website does that, and I just immediately click off of it, or I close it. I don't even look at it. I'm so desensitized to that. As soon as I see something pop up on my screen, I immediately look for the X to close it. Sometimes they're getting smart. Sometimes it's at the bottom or somewhere weird now. So you have to actually look at the thing. But yeah, it's so people are so desensitized to that at this point that it's not even effective to do that.
No, and that's my opt-in for a newsletter I have at the end and the beginning of the end of the page itself, and it's just a banner, and so it's embedded on the page itself, so it's not getting in people's way.
Yeah, when you scroll down, it doesn't stay with you and consume half the screen or whatever. Yeah. I like when people have it on the right side, just as a little thing that you can do on the top of the page. I like that. I don't know why. I think that's visually appealing.
Yeah. So about you, your services, your product, what you might offer, and have a little description of what that might be. So a lot of people don't know what dietitians do, don't know what, one-on-one sessions might look like. So even just a little blurb about what people can expect from a first session. And then the contact page, like we mentioned. And then if you are at the stage, maybe having a newsletter opt-in, so people can sign up to get an email from you with maybe some information about your services. But that kind of thing, and that could be done. We mentioned this before, but like Constant Contact or MailChimp, there's a lot of services for that you can utilize. A lot of them are free too.
Do you need to hire someone to do all this for you?
You can. You don't need to. I started my website and it's changed over the years, but again, with things being like drag and drop, it's a lot easier to navigate, especially with all the templates too, that you're not, again, starting from scratch. And I've redesigned my website multiple times and using new website builders that I'm not familiar with. And again, there's a lot of templates out there to just make it kind of easier, but you can absolutely hire somebody to do that for you. But if you want to give it a try, you can also do that too.
It's easy enough to do on your own if you want to keep it basic and simple. There are a lot of resources for how to do this stuff. Just like anything else, you can Google it or search it on YouTube and find some good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn a lot on your own. You can get the 80-20 of it on your own for sure. All right, social media. What's there to do on social media? What's important?
So with social media, people ask, do you need it? Do you not? Do you have to use it?
What is social media really?
It's like Facebook, Instagram. I guess YouTube is considered social media.
It is.
LinkedIn,
Twitter.
That's another one.
MySpace.
Oh God, they're
Friendster.
None of those are
Zanga.
real.
What do you mean they're not real? You're not real.
What's the new one? TikTok? I guess that's social media,
TikTok,
right?
Sure, yeah.
That's a new one too.
Not that new.
No, I guess not anymore.
That's
but
okay.
Different social media platforms like the ones we listed, but you don't need to use every single one. One thing I always kind of look at is, where are my clients hanging out? And a lot of my kind of dietitian clients are hanging out on Instagram. They utilize Instagram a lot. Most of my like Peraza nutrition clients for like counseling and like plant-based health are on Facebook. So
yeah,
it really
Facebook and
depends.
Instagram are I guess they're the big ones. Facebook and Instagram. Twitter is far more niche.
Yeah.
I find that's just not like a normal person platform generally. Like that kind of environment. A lot of people don't. A lot of creators use Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
There are other platforms though.
Like blogs.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, YouTube and Twitch are like video content and live
yes.
streaming platforms that people have a presence on. The most popular Twitch category is just chatting, people just talking about stuff. I mean, you want a presence on literally all of these platforms. I guess Discord is kind of a platform at this point for being present and sharing stuff, even though it's like a voice call and text communication service. I mean, like there's so much.
Yeah.
There are so many of these platforms.
That's true. I didn't think about all this.
You should be on a bunch of them, I guess.
Yeah.
But the big ones probably for your clients and that are easy to get established on are Facebook and Instagram. I mean, who doesn't have a Facebook page at this point?
Yeah. And with Facebook too, you can create your Facebook page. Now they linked them. You can link Facebook and Instagram together so you could plan content and kind of like cross do stuff.
I think Facebook owns Instagram now.
Yes.
Pretty sure.
That's probably why, actually. But you can also, like, I have it set so when I post something on Facebook, it automatically tweets because I don't really use Twitter much, but that's, for one way to send my content out.
Yeah,
but,
in terms of a user base, Twitter is like well under 200 million, whereas Facebook is like over 2 billion unique users.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter is like under 200 million.
Wow.
And I think Instagram is still under 1 billion, but it's like over 500 million. It's somewhere in there. A lot more people use Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Point being.
But you can, like, when I create content, like I'm more active on Instagram, but I share any content that I create on Facebook and usually LinkedIn. And
you
then
can link them all together too.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to do one at a time. I mean, I did the same thing for a long time where like, if I tweeted something, it would just go right to Facebook and vice versa.
Yeah. So you don't have to create this unique content for each one. But I would definitely suggest those big ones, like we mentioned, to just get started with.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, at the very least, have an Instagram and a Facebook. And then if you post on Instagram, have it linked to Facebook and populate as a Facebook post.
Yeah.
Too. And the thing with Facebook is you can have your own personal page and a business page or like a brand page and have them be separate at no cost or anything like that. And Facebook too, it's just there's so many people on it. It's a good platform for video and like literally any kind of content does pretty good on Facebook. The numbers you see on Facebook are insane. I mean, YouTube is the premier platform for video content, but the numbers Facebook pulls on video views are like astronomically higher.
Hmm.
I mean, 1 million views is a big deal on YouTube. On Facebook, it's like you see hundreds of millions of views all the time. That's like an anomaly on YouTube, whereas Facebook, it's kind of normal to
That's
see like
interesting.
tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of views. It's bizarre, but people, it's just there's so much of it. It's the user base is crazy on Facebook,
Hmm.
and a lot of people, a lot of younger people who I imagine some of your clients are a lot of your clients are probably 20s, 30s. And at this point, Facebook is like, well, if you're in your 30s, it's kind of split. Some people think Facebook is like boomer kind of like
Yeah.
politics, and some people are active on it. But I think a lot of people in their 20s right now just do not feel too good about Facebook.
Yeah, it's funny because I use Facebook groups a lot, not network with other dietitians, and I'm in a lot of those kinds of groups. And then I have two Facebook pages, one for Paraz Nutrition and one for my RD journey. And you could schedule content on those. I used to do a lot of like Facebook lives before on like my Paraz Nutrition, but a lot of my like interactions are coming from people who are like over 40 generally, whereas like on Instagram it's mostly like 20s and like kind of younger, I guess.
That's been my experience too with the stuff that I've done online. A lot of the Facebook user base is older and other new media younger. Generally, Twitter and Instagram have much younger audiences. That's pretty obvious though, I guess. All right, should someone start with a particular platform? I guess we talked about Facebook and Instagram, but you mentioned blogs too.
Yeah, so I first started
What
with
platform do you use with blogs? What do you want?
I use WordPress now.
Okay.
I used to use Blogger, which I don't even know if it's still a thing.
I don't know either.
I don't know. We'll have to find out.
That's Google's free blog platform. It used to be known as Blogger. I'm just going to go ahead and search for that. Go ahead.
But yeah, WordPress is the one that I use, and I really like the platform. It's pretty easy to use. They have a lot of templates that you can use with it. But I started both of my original blogs way back when I was in my undergrad. So I started the My RD Journey when I was in my undergrad, and I also started a Paraz Nutrition one. It was like nutrition at your fingertips back then. But it's a good way to, one, share content about like education. So like for the My RD Journey stuff, I have information on like starting a practice. I have information, my whole journey from when I was through undergrad through my internship. And then for my clients, I have, recipes, I have tips for eating more plant-based and all of those things. But it's an easy way that if I have a client, like most of the topics came from clients that were asking me questions about stuff or recipes that I've created. And it's easy to say like, oh, here, check out my blog, or, send that over to them. So it adds to my credibility, but it also allows, people to kind of stay engaged with the practice too, with having that extra content. So
it looks like Blogger is in fact still a thing.
Huh.
Well, it's another platform to consider.
another.
Either way, it's just another avenue. Like everything you just said. I mean, I don't want to repeat what you just said.
Yeah.
All right. So we kind of talked about, I guess, general tips for getting started with a social media presence.
Yeah. Just, start small and then build it as you see fit. Keep consistent too.
But create the accounts on the relevant platforms. Start posting. And it's, I think, better to actively use the platforms.
Yes.
And a powerful but less used platform that we didn't mention previously here, but I've talked about it and we've talked about it before, is Reddit. I think Reddit's a great one too to get involved. And it's just like your Facebook groups too. Reddit has subreddits where people are, those sorts of platforms are like forums. Those are a smaller but like more passionate group of people that will, I think that's really the way to get into this stuff and have people care about who you are and share your stuff, is to be a part of those communities and provide genuine advice and help, or like very genuinely engage.
Yes.
In those communities. Become a part of them.
Yeah.
Don't use them to sell yourself. You will very quickly be sniffed out as someone who's just there to promote themselves, and it doesn't come off good.
Yeah.
But, if you're really going to get into this stuff, become a part of some communities that you like. I use Reddit the way you use Facebook, where I get involved with people and become part of a community and discuss things.
Mm-hmm.
They're both good platforms for that. Any other basic marketing strategy. Oh, what's Google My Business?
Oh, so it's free. So if you're in like your Google like email, the little drop down, you can just click on Google My Business. I actually just updated mine today because I realized I hadn't updated it in a while. But it's you list like you show up on the map, but it'll also list your hours, what your business information is. You can link your appointment page. You can link to your services and include services. You can add pictures, and that all helps when someone searches for you. I show up in like a little square on the right-hand side with like the business information and then my website link. So it's free, but it's another way for you to kind of get yourself on those search engines.
There you go. Another service to take advantage of by Google for free. Any other basic marketing tips or strategies for building an online presence?
One like thing is to have your information also in your email signature, which is kind of like a sometimes underused thing. It's just, your signature, your name, your credentials, all that kind of stuff. But then like your website, link to it, or like your YouTube or whatever your social media handles are.
What is an email signature?
Oh, so when you send an email out, it's like and you could save the signature so it automatically gets attached, but it's at the end where you would have like your name, like sincerely Felicia Peraza, and then it would have
relevant information, contact information right under.
Yes.
It's a template.
Exactly.
It just gets populated automatically. You're not typing that every time. That's a setting you can change in whatever your email provider is.
Yes. Yeah. So I have my, owner and registered dietitian at Peraza Nutrition, and I have a link to my website, my phone number, my email contact, but then also my social media handles on there, and then a disclaimer.
You should set that up if you don't have it already. If nothing else, it'll make you look more professional.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of this stuff is. A lot of things with building your online presence have to do with appearing professional. Even if you don't know what you're doing, you have to make it look like you do. Because if you don't look like you do, it will be assumed that you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Let people discover you have no idea what you're doing after they reach out because you've already established a good line of credential with at least the way you appear.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing. It's just you got to convince people that you do.
Give people a good impression about you and your business. And it's funny though, because you don't necessarily have to have everything lined up and ready to go. I've built things after like a client asked me about something and I'm like, oh, I should have this too. And so it's okay to be building things as you go and,
All right. So we've talked about marketing and establishing your presence online.
Mm-hmm.
How about actually getting clients?
So one big thing is actually becoming an insurance provider. So for me, in my area, it was worthwhile to become a provider. So become in network with insurance companies. And this was for a couple of reasons. One, I was more likely to also get clients because their insurance was paying for it and they're not paying out of pocket. But when I went out and actually marketed myself and tried to get partnerships with like doctors' offices and gyms and all of that, I was able to use that and like leverage that to say like I accept insurance, and then that way if they were marketing it to their, let's say, employees, maybe they all had a certain insurance plan that I'm a provider for. It was a way to, get me in the door. They're like, oh, you take our insurance, and that can get clients. But even some physicians actually that I partnered with, they wanted somebody who accepted insurance because they want to send their patients.
Of course they did. I mean, this is kind of 101. This is probably the first thing you should do.
Yeah.
Am I wrong here? I'm an outsider looking in, but it sounds like you'd be a fool to not become an insurance provider. Isn't that the whole point?
It depends. I mean, the insurance reimbursement.
What do you mean it depends?
It depends for a couple reasons. One, some insurance provider rates in different states are a lot lower than what I get. And we can't talk about fees and fee schedules.
So we're in Pennsylvania. And if I'm correct, it seems like insurance companies just send clients to you.
Yeah, so in a couple ways. And so I'm listed on the insurance provider directory. So if someone searches dietitian in our zip code, or at least my business zip code anyway, I show up on a list of dietitians. And so that's where it's really helpful to then have like a presence online because people will search for you. Like my business is not linked, like my website is not linked on the directory. It's just my name, my company, so like Peraza Nutrition, and then my phone number, and I think my email address and my hours. So people either call me right away there, or they search for me on, online and find me and then contact me through the website and say, oh, I saw you on the directory. The other thing is if someone calls their insurance company and asks for a dietitian in their area, then and they populate a list, usually they'll do like a 5 or 10 mile radius, whatever it is. And so then if I'm in that area, I'll be on that list of dietitians.
But why wouldn't you become an insurance provider? Like, what's the downside?
Well, a couple of downsides. One is some insurance networks are closed, and so they won't accept new providers. So if you're a dietitian and you're
So for some people, it's not even an option.
It's not an option.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is I mentioned, like, we can't talk about fees specifically about this fee schedule, but some dietitians do not get good reimbursement from insurance companies. So if you become a provider, you are you can't bill a client for more than what your contract states. So
for some people in certain states, it can either not be an option or not be financially beneficial in terms of the time commitment versus the compensation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That clears things up, because I don't know why you wouldn't become an insurance provider, but here in Pennsylvania, for you at least, it's been a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Okay. How does someone get started with becoming a provider?
So there's a link we'll put it down below actually, about starting a private practice and some of the basics that you need, like getting an EIN, an NPI, and setting up the CAQH.
Oh, we've covered this.
We've covered this, so we'll link that below. But definitely start early, because it does take time to get in network with insurance companies. And so being able to just start that process earlier rather than later. So if you're thinking about it, I would get started with the process. So then that way you're...
So how did this help you get clients exactly? Just the visibility and being referred to and all that?
Yeah, because I get clients who will call me and say like, oh, I found you on the directory, like from my insurance company. And then I also have clients that are direct referrals from their physician, and they refer to me because they know I'm in network. And then also some of the partnerships I've built, I'm on a list for employees to say like, here's dietitians that accept your insurance. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we've talked about networking in the past. Should you network with other dietitians? I think obviously you should, but I think the important thing is why. So why should you network with other dietitians?
So absolutely, for two reasons. One is that you may be in different there's plenty of clients to go around. Let me just put that out there.
Yeah, there is no scarcity of clients, especially if you're in the United States, where health problems are often linked to diet and lifestyle, which is something you're here to help people with.
Yeah.
There are clients abundant in the United States.
So there's enough clients to go around, but also you might have different specialties or different methods, and then also different locations too. So like I will refer to dietitians even like 5 minutes down the road that actually use an office space, whereas I do virtual stuff. So that could be like a difference in location. I mentioned difference in specialties. So I've often referred to dietitians who might specialize in eating disorders or different like digestive issues that I don't typically work with, or like kidney disease or things like that. So, but I've also had the same where dietitians are referring to me because they know I work in like a plant-based space where I'm a personal trainer as well. And so again, you're networking with other dietitians and you can be referring each other clients first. And then the other thing is being able to have a network. So if you do have issues or if you have questions, you can have like a dietitian who is in private practice that you can maybe reach out to, and collaborate on stuff with, or if you need help with something or they need help with something, building that kind of little network. I'm at the microphone. But yeah, I mean, that's it. I've worked with a lot of different dietitians, and I'm constantly like, if I get filled up for the month, I'm like sending them, their way, or maybe I don't take an insurance plan that they might. And so, I refer them to, another dietitian. And so there's plenty of clients to go around, and you're just, helping the field as a sense too.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. I mean, you don't want to work against other dietitians, and it's like you're either working with them or working against them. The mentality is one or the other. It will not serve you to set yourself up as competition to other dietitians. It's kind of like competing for water in the United States, or like for something that's just abundantly available. Like you're not going to fight somebody over bread in the supermarket when there's a full shelf of bread. It doesn't make any sense to do that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what this is. It's not as obvious because it's all ethereal, it's not tangible.
Mhm.
But that's the situation for dietitians right now.
Yeah.
Whether you want to believe that or not, that really is how it is. You're better off handing someone the bread off the shelf that they can't reach or that you're in the way of rather than competing for the bread.
Yes.
There's too much. Seriously,
That's a
there's
good
not
analogy.
a shortage. It's just like the toilet paper thing. All right, so that's a good rundown. I think that's where we're at there. It's not a competition. There's no reason to view it that way. All right, so in terms of marketing, there are free options like sharing things yourself.
Yes.
And then there are paid options where you
Mhm.
can boost a Facebook page, a page or a post. Same thing with Instagram. YouTube does it too. Should you pay for ads?
You can. You want to think about whether or not it's actually going to target your ideal client, and then also if it's makes sense to do it. Fun. I don't think we've told this story before. When I paid, I think I should say it, $450 for a placemat advertisement. So like when you go to a diner,
That's
the
a pretty
place-
unique example of
Yeah.
paid advertising.
But it's an example of like I was new to private practice, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if paid advertising, this will be great. I'm going to get my name out there. And it was just a terrible idea. But that made me think, advertising, is my ideal client going to actually see it? Or is anybody going to actually see it? Those kinds of things, like making sure that if you're paying for advertising, that it's going to be worthwhile. But also, honestly, I found the biggest marketing has been like with word of mouth versus paid. So,
Okay, so here's something. You just kind of crapped all over paid
I
advertising.
did.
All right. Here's an example of how it served me in a project that I did. I started a brand new YouTube channel for a project that I cared about. I had a free $20 credit for a Google or a Google AdSense program. It basically allowed me to create a campaign for a particular YouTube video, and it was $20 worth of advertising. There are different rates and things that apply to this, but basically it pulled in about 3,300 views and like 80 subscribers off of that
Wow.
$20 credit. I didn't pay anything for it. I just got an email like, hey, here's a free, it can be really powerful. And it was people like commented on that video. It was a fresh YouTube account and the first video on the account itself. And there were people who like actually engaged with the content in a very genuine way. It got likes and comments from people like, hey, this is awesome, blah, blah, blah. Like that's not fake, like real genuine interaction. If you pay for a little bit of that up front at the beginning, it can kickstart your progress on something new that you're doing. It can instantly boost you. What that does. Here's why you pay for advertising on web platforms like that. It puts your stuff at the top. It makes you visible. It puts it in front of people when it normally wouldn't be organically. You're paying for that. Eyeballs are money. That's what you are paying for, basically, visibility. It can be worth it if you're just starting out and if you genuinely have something to offer that you've put effort into. A lot of people have low quality content or they have content without much substance. But they compensate for that by paying for obscene amounts of advertising. I mean, you've seen some of these viral ad campaigns. I mean, if you've been on YouTube, you've seen like these ads for like video games that are horrendous and oversimplified, or like the Here in My Garage guy. I don't know if you know who Ty Lopez is,
No.
but there are certain ad campaigns that were so popular because they were like everywhere. I'm not saying you should be that guy who dumps like 10 grand into ad campaigns for like a week of one video, but if you want to get yourself out there, it is a legitimate option, and it doesn't have to be super expensive, and it can be extremely effective.
That's true. And there was I think with like my Facebook pages, I often get notices that are like $5 for advertising, which isn't, like they'll give me $5 too. So sometimes you'll see those, like you said, you get the $20 one, but you'll see those with like Facebook pages a lot too. So
It's a legitimate thing to put money in to progress your business, just like anything else. You're going to pay for web hosting if you create a website.
that's true.
You're going to pay the fees and whatnot to become an insurance provider. There are a lot of paid costs with starting and running a business. Marketing is one of them.
Mhm.
You should have a marketing budget,
Yeah,
one way or another. It's something worth putting money into.
that's true.
In your case, the paper advertisements on a placemat in a diner were a bad investment, whereas for other people that might be a good investment, probably not for this. But
Mhm.
if you have content on Facebook or YouTube or a blog and you can pay to promote that, or Instagram even, if you want to pay to boost some posts, it will get more people to see your work.
Yeah.
It will do something for you. It's questionable, the cost to benefit ratio,
Mhm.
but it's worth considering,
Yeah.
especially if you're just starting out and you don't have any other means of sharing stuff.
Yeah, especially if you're thinking about like with services, or even like if you're creating a program or something too, is maybe boosting like a post on your event or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, you can share your stuff manually in places that it's got a lot of relevance and it'll have a similar effect. If you're just starting out with any form of content for a business or a business itself, finding relevant places to share it yourself is kind of another way of kickstarting it and getting it going early on. So it's like a free way, but you're investing time. But paid marketing is kind of like you're paying someone to do that for you,
Mhm.
basically. Because, getting 100 subscribers on a fresh YouTube channel, or getting 100 views on a blog, or, having a post be shared 10 times. So those are like astronomical things to get for just starting out. And if you want to just pay $20 to do that, by all means, don't stop. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a bad investment,
No,
is what I'm
no.
saying.
And it's also a business write-off too.
Yeah,
It's on that
there you go.
marketing category.
But it can also happen organically through word of mouth. People can
Mhm.
share your stuff, and the more you get involved and the longer you're present in certain platforms, and the more engaged you are in certain communities, word of mouth can kind of just do it for you. So do you want to talk
Mhm.
about like word of mouth as a way of marketing?
Yeah. So, and this, can come from your current clients, or it can come from like if you, do a presentation and someone watches your presentation, or attends your presentation, they maybe won't be your ideal client, but maybe you had an impact on them. They really liked your personality, the way you talked about stuff, and then they might refer you to, a friend or a family member. So, it is very powerful. It's a lot of where my contracts actually came from, and partnerships have been through previous clients, or somebody heard me speak at something else and then reached out to me. And so, those kinds of things can be very powerful. But if you make a good impression, and again, sometimes the person you're talking to might not be your ideal client, but they know someone who is. So,
It all ties in. Word of mouth is going to come from you doing good work consistently and
mhm.
being genuine and putting the time in.
Yeah.
It comes organically over time. It's like basically you can pay to kickstart your business with ads, and if the quality is there, it'll do well, and eventually you'll get that organically. It'll kind of snowball, and word of mouth is one of the ways that happens.
Yeah.
And it can happen. You can get spikes of word of mouth traffic if you do networking yourself.
Mhm.
Or, if you share clients with other dietitians, or you refer out, that person is now in your network, and they're talking you up to other people is part of that word of mouth.
Yeah.
That term is thrown around a lot. It basically means people are talking about what you're doing.
I was going to say people are talking about you. I'm in a good way.
So, and I guess there's an aspect of like people talking about you online versus locally, and if people know you in your area, that's probably helpful too.
Mhm.
How do you connect to local businesses?
So when I first started, I actually just created a list of all different businesses in the area. So I went with like health centers and gyms and doctors' offices, and all of those kinds of like even office-based settings. Made a big list, and then what I did was I actually went through their website, their social media, got a feel for them, because I wanted to make sure that whoever I was reaching out to aligned with like my view on nutrition, or at least would be maybe a good partnership. And then that also kind of prepared me to make the initial connection, being able to get to know them a little bit. And then, so kind of getting a list together of different people I might want to connect with. And then from that, being able to then reach out to them. But
what are some businesses that you could partner with?
so gyms are a big one. Health centers or like wellness type centers or like nonprofit community centers. A lot of them will have, they might not have nutrition or
Nonprofit community center is like the YMCA.
yeah. So like a YMCA could be one. And those are nice too. Like, or like a women's center. Often people have those around them, but, those are nice because sometimes they do have a dietitian, sometimes they don't. And they're usually, they're promoting health and wellness, but they might have a wellness coordinator, but might not be a dietitian. And that's where you can kind of partner with them. And then the gyms, for obvious reasons, with people wanting to, physique, health, wellness, all of that, but you could partner to maybe do a presentation or even like I've done, like challenge based stuff with, a gym before, where I offered, like an 8-week challenge where it was like a, fitness and nutrition piece. So like they had personal trainers before I was one. They had personal trainers doing like stuff. And then I would come in and do like a little mini presentation on nutrition. So
you are also a personal trainer.
I am now, yes.
All right. So, but how do you reach out? How do you make a meaningful connection with these businesses so that it's actually beneficial for both of you?
Yeah. So the first is you really need to look at their website and get to know their, what they're all about first, because that's going to allow you to make a better first impression on them. So the first thing I usually do is usually an email. So reaching out to, and if it's like a gym that's, has like a smaller gym, those are usually a little easier to get into, but reach out to the owner, or if there's like a wellness something, like a wellness coordinator or that's usually the person I'll reach out to. So usually email first, and then usually I'll call and see if there's a good time to, maybe not right now, come in or schedule like a time to chat with somebody. So normally people aren't able to like talk to you right away, but hey, can I maybe talk to the owner? I want to talk. I'm a dietitian in the area and I wanted to connect and partner with them.
We got to stop on that for a second.
Oh.
Seriously, don't just show up thinking you're going to get a meeting on the spot. That's not how businesses work.
Yeah.
People have days planned out. People have schedules. I've seen this happen on several occasions. I used to run a piece of a business. I'm not going to go into it, but people used to just show up, ask for me, and expect a meeting right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it works. It is extremely unprofessional to do that. Fully expect that if you reach out and connect with someone, that you're going to have to schedule a time to see them.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're immediately selling yourself out as someone who has no idea what they're doing. It is such a clear indicator that you're an amateur.
Yeah.
It is very amateurish to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Okay. Sorry. That was such a, all right. I don't want to get into it. So go ahead.
Yeah. So email or call first. And then also when you make that initial connection, don't make it just about you and, why this is beneficial for you, but how you could benefit them, So if you're reaching out to a physician's office, helping with, clients who have diabetes, you specialize in diabetes, maybe offering to do like a freebie seminar or webinar or have, drop off some information about. So again, kind of tie it back to this partnership, that it's not just about you and the benefit you're going to get from it. But schedule something, see if you can get in contact with the person to get scheduled. And then again, like I mentioned, offering a freebie actually might be a good way to kind of get in the door. So I've done even 15-minute like lunch and learn type things where it's like I've done face-to-face, but also like webinars. So like during like what would be like a lunch period time for employees, and they're able to log on like Zoom or something. And it's just 15 minutes about, like healthy brown bag lunch or something like that, where it's like really simple for me to do. They get to know me a little bit, but also, it's providing them with value. So it's not just a pitch for my services, but I'm providing them with actual value and then giving them my contact information. So if they are interested, they can then reach out to me.
That ties into the whole non-scarcity mindset, the abundance mindset. Don't be afraid to offer some things for free up front. If you're trying to build a business and create a perception that you are a person of value who's worth paying for in terms of your time and your content, it's worth giving some of it away for free because there should be plenty more where that came from. That's the idea. When you make an appointment with these people and you reach out, what's your general thought for like a follow-up period?
Usually it depends. So normally I try to schedule like when would be a good time to contact you to follow up on this is usually what I kind of say. And usually some people will say like within a week or 2 weeks or, oh, I'll email you. And usually I give it 1 or 2 weeks depending on what might be going on. But usually 1 or 2 week time frame is what I usually wait. And then I send an email follow up or I call. And sometimes people forget, but sometimes people are not interested and they just haven't let you know. But then at least you know.
So what, you don't bombard them with questions. Hey, excuse me, I called you yesterday. I didn't get back. You didn't get back to me. Hey, I emailed you 2 days ago. Where are you? Hello.
Yeah, don't do that. I've had people do that where they reach out to me to partner and then I see the email and I'm like, oh, I have to respond. And then like the next day they're like emailing me about and I'm like, geez, like, can you relax?
If it's not urgent and you're emailing someone every day, more like once a day about something, here's why you shouldn't do that. You're too busy. You've got too much going on. Your business is high value. You've got a lot to do. You don't have time to email people and then follow up the next day. You've got to break that out. You're too busy. Whether you are or not, the perception is there. You're creating a perception of yourself. If you email someone one day and then they don't respond to you and you email them the next day, you immediately seem desperate and not busy.
Yes.
Is what it comes off as. Immediately you appear low value because you should have so many leads, so much stuff going on that you don't even have time to follow up tomorrow. I got too much going on. A week out, I'll schedule that. That's part of it. Fake it till you make it. That's, there's a negative connotation there, but either way, the last thing you want to do is come off as desperate or annoying.
Yes.
And you will be if you call someone and they don't follow up and then you call them again the next day. I used to get phone calls from someone. I'd take a message. Someone would take a message for me. And then I wouldn't call them back, and they'd either email me the next day or later that day sometimes, or then call back the following day. And it's like, geez, what's wrong with you people? Don't you have something better to do?
Yeah.
And it's like, there were days where I was busy as heck, in over my head, a busy period, around the holidays or something. And these people would call me to try to sell me something that I didn't want in the first place, but then I'd have to call them back to tell them to stop calling me. Don't be that person.
Yeah.
Seriously. And then what I used to do, because I worked in a network of hospitals, I would call other people or like I would forward the email. I'm like, these people emailing me. I would tell other managers, like, here, I'm being harassed by these people. Get them out of here. Turn them down. They have bad tactics. Basically, it creates negative word of mouth.
It does.
People are like 5 times more likely to share a negative experience than a positive one. Don't be that person. Other gym owners will know you as that person because of the way you are with one gym owner. They all talk to each other. They network with each other. So, you don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
By all means.
No, it's a huge turnoff for
less is more in that case.
It is, yeah. And be clear how they can contact you and then just leave it as is. Kind of. And, maybe that's not a partnership that you want to be in if, they don't get back to you for 3 months.
So you're not afraid to like let it go, kind of walk away from that.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to, even like if you get into like partnering with someone and you find that maybe it's not a good fit, if things aren't working out, it's okay to, say, nicely, don't want to burn the bridge. Because they might still be referring clients to you or they might still talk about you. But being able to, kind of say, I think we're kind of at different places right now, or depending on what the partnership is. And you can, by all means, walk away or walk away before it even starts. I've had that too, where, I meet with somebody and I find that I really don't think we're going to be a good fit, or there was some weird salesy kind of stuff going on. I just didn't have a good feeling about
weird
it.
salesy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They were pitching things to you.
They were pitching things. It was a gym owner. It was like pitching, and he was talking about fee splitting, which is actually illegal. And
well, that right there is a dead giveaway that you should probably not work with that person if they're talking about something illegal.
I don't think he realized that it was, and so I explained it, and then it was just this whole bait. And then he was telling me about how awesome their Facebook was, and then I looked, and there was like 5 followers. It was just, it was just a lot of like, nothing was very honest, and I was just like, this isn't really where I want to.
Well, so there's that. There's the obvious, okay, this is not up my alley. You don't want to take literally every opportunity that finds you. But there's also stuff where like you took the opportunity it was good for a little while, and
Mhm.
eventually you kind of grew away from it, or you transitioned away from it in terms of what you wanted to do, or you deemed it was no longer kind of worth it to you.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about?
So I used to do cooking classes downtown Independence Live and I partnered with a company, and
Oh,
so
downtown.
downtown. Sorry, I forget that I'm like not talking to
We're in a
people.
major city in the
Sorry.
United States. You know,
uh,
it's public information that you're in Philadelphia. I don't,
yeah, no, yeah. But I was doing these cooking classes, so I was hired by a contract company to do the cooking classes, and they were great. They were such a great experience. I loved doing them, but it was kind of a hike to take all my cooking supplies downtown, but then also the time that it took me to like create the recipes and create the handout and actually like do the hour cooking class. The amount of effort I was putting in, it was just kind of ended up being like not worth all of the time I was spending. And so I actually talked to, because the owner was super nice for the company. And so we had talked about it, increased my rates, and then did that for another like year or so. And then it kind of still got to a point where it was just too much. And so we parted ways, but we still kept in contact. The owner had reached out to me about doing like a webinar, and I had done webinars and some seminars. And so it kind of spiraled into some other stuff. And now we're still in contact, but I don't contract for them anymore. But
It's just like
yeah.
anything else. You took a gig because you were
Mhm.
early on in your business. It seemed like a good idea at the time, and it was.
Mhm.
And it was good for when you did it.
Yeah.
And then eventually you were in business for longer. You know, there are some parallels to private practice and a small business to like traditional employment. And one of them is the longer you're in the game, the more valuable you are. The more experience you have, the more valuable you are.
Mhm.
In terms of having a small business or a practice, if you're in it for a while, you basically have more clout in the industry. You're able to get more for less.
Yeah.
You're able to get more, more compensation for less time.
Yeah.
Early on, you're kind of low value because you don't have any experience and you're new.
Exactly.
So some things make sense early on and they don't later. And if this was something that you really, really thoroughly enjoyed and had so much fun with and it was easier to physically do,
Yeah.
you may have kept it.
Yeah, like if I was closer, I would have probably kept it a little longer. And you know what's funny, like we said about like not burning bridges, that contact person referred me to another business because they were doing contract work for that business. And they referred them to me to be on a list of dietitians for their employees. And it's one of the companies I still work with. And I didn't ask. And they just, had from working with me with these classes. And it was more of like a partnership than it was that they were contracted with me and telling me what to do. But we didn't, that bridge wasn't burned, and they referred me to somebody else.
So it was a connection that you made that became part of your network that then their word of mouth promotion for you because of the work you did got you more clients, and then they sort of became a long-term network ally and got you some clients.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that some of those clients and some of those relationships have been long-term relationships and clients.
Yeah.
What else about like creating long-term relationships is prominent? What's your sort of philosophy for creating relationships that stick and stay around?
So there's a couple aspects to it. The first is, having very kind of clear guidelines as to like when you're going to actually reach out to clients. And what I mean by that is, I have in my policies that I reach out to clients and return emails within 24 hours and voicemail within 2 business days. And being clear on that when I first have a client on board, so that way if they email me and I don't email right away, they don't think they don't care and I'm not interested in talking to them between the appointments. And so I make that very clear. But I also, at the end of every session, hey, reach out to me if you need anything, or send me an email if you need anything, kind of being open. But then also asking them what I can do to help them, what other resources might be helpful for them to succeed, or is there any other information that I could provide? So obviously providing a good service is going to be a key to keeping a client.
Yeah,
But
it's not really worth dipping into too hard right now. But yeah,
yeah.
if you do what you do well, obviously people are more likely to stick around.
Exactly. And even clients who are my long-term clients, keeping them engaged. So like I have a newsletter list, and sometimes it's repurposing content. I'm sharing the blogs. I may be adding a couple extra tips, but reaching out about new events, but also providing value in the email list too. And that can re-engage clients who maybe haven't scheduled in a while, but also current clients, like, oh, she's talking about this, or oh, this is a great idea. And it gets them, again, kind of excited about nutrition and keeps them kind of on board too. So that's another way, is just kind of connecting with your clients, providing value outside of just that meeting time too.
I think part of your strength in particular is that you're consistent and you're detail oriented.
I'm very
but those are really good qualities to have in a small business, because when you're both consistent and detail oriented, you're thorough on a regular basis. And I think those are just like really high quality things to have together.
Yeah.
Because people know what to expect.
That's
and they always get the full picture. You generally don't leave anything to chance, and you don't leave anything out. It's just being consistent and thorough, I think, is really high value in your business.
Yeah. And following through with like what you say you're going to do. So like if I tell a client I'm going to follow up with them by the end of the day, or provide them with resources through email, or send them a handout, actually sticking to that time frame. So don't set an unrealistic time frame, always put like something like, let's say, a day out or 2 days out, and then give it sooner.
We're bordering on get good here. We're bordering on be better here.
But like being able to follow through that clients are always appreciative of that. I'm following up very quickly and promptly with them. So
if you create a reputation for being good on your word, that's super valuable. If you say you're going to do something,
do it.
If you don't do it, you're going to create doubt about you and your services. In a professional environment, that's a lot more serious than it is in a personal environment. Like it's not like bailing on your friend when you said that you were going to help them move last month.
Yeah.
It's a lot different, because there's money on the line here, and you're not the only show in town. You have to make good on what you say.
Yeah.
That's all. That's just some others. That's way beyond the scope of this conversation. But, I think we're kind of tying it in here. So we talked about marketing and some strategies for that. A lot of this is marketing and getting into that in terms of getting clients. I mean, marketing is basically making yourself visible and known to the world, online and offline. There are, a lot of options and platforms. Word of mouth is really powerful. You can pay for some of this stuff, but there's a lot of stuff you can do for free. Your online presence is absolutely key here. And then when you finally do make the connections via your marketing strategy, how to build good partnerships and strong relationships in both the short term and the long term. So any closing thoughts on this?
A couple. Getting started now, like you could start with starting with a blog, building a website, but just get started with something. Social media, one of those, find one that feels comfortable, at least to start with, and just start now. So it could be, like a slow progression. We don't have to start with all of them, but just get started on something right now.
Yeah, build some momentum. Once you get going, you're a lot more likely to keep going. You build inertia. It's like one of the laws of motion, Newton's first law of motion. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. You're a lot more likely to keep the ball rolling if you roll the ball first.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to keep going than it is to start. The hardest thing is to start. It may feel like a huge burden right now if you don't have anything going, if you have not set foot in this arena yet. Once you start, it's a lot easier to keep going. Start small, but then try to keep the ball in the air from there. But just get started.
Just get started.
Make a web page, write a blog, take out your phone, boom, basic YouTube video, upload, just do something, and then keep going.
Yes.
But the do something is the more important part.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing I didn't mention earlier, which is also another good closing thought, is when you're partnering or finding, web companies or businesses that you want to partner with, if you're going to drop off anything, I would highly suggest not just a flyer, because honestly, when I would leave flyers, people didn't really take them, but they took recipes that had my contact information and services on it. So that might be a better marketing thing, is if you're dropping off anything like paper-wise or giving somebody something, outside of linking them to your website, provide them with something of value, like a recipe or a tip sheet on, how to add more vegetables, or I don't know, something like that. And then your contact information in that, what services you might offer, but they're more likely to take it and then be like, oh, she's a dietitian,
Yeah,
So,
make your business card or calling card functional. If it's a flyer, just a piece of paper, it's basically trash.
it is.
No one wants that.
No.
But, if you can tie it into something useful or beneficial or valuable, that's way better. And a different example is someone I used to, I can't remember it's a production company for music, and they used to hand out guitar picks with their website on it. I'm going to use a guitar pick,
Yeah.
but I don't want your business card.
Yeah.
Just,
Exactly.
as a weird example of that.
And then the other thing is watching out for like scams and companies preying on new businesses, but also, sometimes it's good to get the information and just take a step back, and because it can be very exciting when you have your first somebody reach out to you, or you have your first like someone's asking me to be on a directory. That's exciting. They must want me, and so I can get tied up in emotion about it too, and like the excitement and like it's something new and I want to get out there and all that, but kind of taking a step back because there are companies out there that are,
predatory.
Yes. So,
Do not become prey.
Yeah. Get a feel, look at their website, take a step back and say, I'll get back to you. And sometimes if you find that they're kind of incessantly bothering you about something, trying to get you to sign on, that might be a red flag in itself. But
it's an immediate red flag for the same reason we talked about earlier. If someone's following up with you day after day or multiple times per day, that's a huge red flag. They're probably a low value prospect for literally anything. They want something from you and they don't offer anything. That's a really good sign that they're just not offering anything to you.
Yeah.
That's worthwhile. And, not for anything, but this goes with just kind of life in general. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Don't get sold on something just based on how awesome it sounds.
Yeah.
Off the bat. People are deceptive and manipulative when it comes to business and money. Money is a motivator, often in the negative, for what people are willing to do.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of times money can make good people do bad things. And this is one of those instances where, how do you justify scamming someone?
Yeah.
Because there's a financial benefit to you. That's, there are people out there who are, they are bad faith actors, and you have to protect yourself. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
Proceed with caution.
Yes. Ask questions. That's one of my things. I always have a list of questions before I go into anything. And honestly, how somebody might respond to that is actually also a telltale sign of if it's, good business or maybe not. So.
Oh, yeah. Develop a sense for how people act. The more you do this stuff, the better you'll get at it. The better a feel you'll start to gain for who's trying to do what and kind of how all this works. That's one of the reasons why I say just get started with literally everything. It's because as soon as you start accruing that experience. You're now in it.
Yeah.
And if you're on the outside, you're never going to start gaining that experience.
That's very true.
So get involved. Start somehow. All right. Well, I think that about sums it up.
Yeah.
Here. That's how to get clients in a nutshell. Marketing's a big piece of it. I mean, really, start digging into some marketing materials. Get involved. Marketing is a big deal. No matter what you do, if you have a business or some kind of product or service, you need to learn how to market yourself. Sell yourself. Fake it till you make it. All right, that'll do it for us here. Is that closed up, you think? But did we put a pin in that?
I think we did. There's many. Yeah.
All right. All relevant links and information, resources discussed, anything relevant will be down below. I'm going to say that instead of both the show notes and description from now on. It will be linked in the relevant area. But that's going to do it for us. Thanks for being with us. More coming at you pretty soon. More podcasts and some short form content coming up. Some edited content, topical stuff. I will not be present. I will be behind the camera for that. But we'll have a lot more coming. So that'll do it for us here at the My RD Journey Podcast. Thanks so much for being with us.